Now the last thing for today which we will implement is automatically seeding, and you will also want to have that for some other applications later on. For example, if you build an application, you got an admin user, you want to always have that admin user once you switch your environment, for example. So there is some pre-seeding of data, for example, an admin account or manager account, or some sort of other information, location information, or some products who should always be inside of a database, right? So this is called data seeding. You just seed or add information into a database by code. So this is seeding. Go ahead and open up the entities class. Let me just show you where we have that seeding right now. We have sort of fake seeding right here in that flights list, because here we have some predefined data. However, this is not how it should be really implemented if you want to see data. Let's take a look now on how you can see data the correct way. First of all, let's change that flight array here to be type of list. So instead having flight array, let's create a list of type flight, new flight. There you go, new list of type flight. Great. Now let's open up program.cs. And now after building, very important, so we add a service before we build, then we build, and now we can create an instance from it. So we can go directly after building, but it's really important that it's after building, as we will not be able to now create the scope of our entity service. And that's important, so every time later on you will have to, well, make use of a service inside program.cs. Remember this video or just come back and watch it again. So we now inside of program.ts want to use our service that we have just set up here. Then the app got created, and now we can use that service. Var entities equals to app.services.create scope, that's important, .service provider, that's inside of the scope. And now we can get a service of type entities here, and that one is exactly the service that we are creating here from the singleton call. Great, so now we have that service. Okay, let's switch back to our entities and copy everything what's inside here of that curly braces. So copy all the new elements here. As I said, inside of the curly braces, copy it. Then let me just remove it so that we in the end just have a new empty list. So new list of type flight, which is empty. Let me get rid of that. Here, we can also remove the random now since we don't use it anymore. So as you can see, a lot of refactoring, right? So inside of entities, we only have passenger list and new flight list. However, it doesn't really make a difference if you use that I list or simple list. So go ahead with the data type you like or keep it as it is right now. Let's switch over to program.cs again. Keep in mind that I copied all the flight information. So let's create a new random now. Var random equals to new random. Because we need it for our flights. Let's create a new array of type flights. So flights, we need our namespace for this using flights.domain.entities. There we go. Now we can use our flights entity or flight entity. Scroll down again. Let's say array, so flight array. Let's call it flights equals to new flight array. Add that curly braces, paste in all the copied information about all the flights, like this. Awesome. Let me collapse that. So we now have a flight array. Here are our preceding data. Let me rename that. Let's call it flights to seed, for example, just to make that naming clear. So those are the information or data that we want to seed. Now let's add it. Use the service entities dot flights. So we're using that one here, right? Flights.add range. Now we take the service and add into the flights of that service the flights to seed. That's everything we have to do. And now we have that one instance of our entities class, which is just like our database. And on startup, right, this is program.cs. So this will get executed one time at startup, and then we'll go ahead and add our flights to seed into the entities instance, so into the service. Awesome, and once you start the application, you will see that we will still have all our predefined flights now provided. As you can see, once I click on search flights, we will still have all the information, but now it got seeded from program.cs into the service that we have just created. And why did we do all of that? So right now we haven't really achieved anything new, right? But we made a huge step forward of using dependency injection, because we will now switch over in the next step to use Entity Framework Core, and then it's just one more final step to really make use of an SQL database, which will be directly the same, right? Because Entity Framework can directly be used to run commands on an SQL database. So this is just some configuration. However, as I earlier said, we are really going a linear learning path. So you will learn everything from scratch. And when I say scratch, I really mean from scratch. So absolutely bare bones. When you start with a variable, you turn that into a static list, then you break it down into entities and all of this, bring it inside a different layer. And again, then inside of dependency injection, remove it from being static again, and then finally make use of it in Entity Framework Core. So step by step. However, as I already said, later on, you definitely want to go ahead and directly start by creating a service, adding it to the dependency injection, and use Entity Framework directly. Okay, so next up, we got Entity Framework Core.